be a cautionary tale for anyone silly enough to do that. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the one person in the world. I'm sorry that music is playing somewhere in the vicinity. I don't know where, but it may be audible for you. It certainly is for me, so I apologize. But, I'm drinking my usual Starbucks drink. This is just a green tea matcha latte with soy milk, iced. They were out of soy milk the other day at all 3 Starbucks in my neighborhood. So I substituted almond milk, and I just don't like it as much. It's not as hefty, it's not as creamy, and I don't think it's as sweet. This practically tastes like cereal milk, so it's very sweet. Where is that coming from? It's like dramatic movie music or something. Oh well. Speaking of which, I wanted to chat a little bit today about some movies I've watched recently. I'm not going to try to give a comprehensive breakdown of my quarantine movie watching experience. I'm going to save that for another video, or even, I think the wiser thing would be to break it up into multiple videos, because let me tell you, that list is like 150 movies deep. No, actually, not even, like 300 movies deep. So, yeah. So, I have no idea what that music is. It's pleasant enough, but I've decided to stop for planes because they're just so loud. But moving forward, I'm not really going to stop for traffic noise or birds or bits of chatter, audible music from my neighbors' places, things like that, just because I've talked at length about the challenges of my sound environment, and I've gotten such nice feedback over and over again that you don't mind. If anything, maybe you find it relaxing, but you certainly don't mind, and you don't want me to try to eliminate these sounds at the expense of being able to make content at all. I'm getting a lot of, like, I don't know if you've ever heard an improv backline support, where, just a fun fact, I've been on 2 different improv teams, so I am one of those people. And if you're like, God, you're not even that funny, the point is with improv to bounce off other people. And even then, perhaps I'm not that funny, but maybe I'm the voice of reason in scenes more. But yeah, I tend to like to make people laugh a lot, so a lot of my humor is that kind of instinctual, like, situational, just trying to get a smile out of someone in a situation. So I don't think I'm that funny in a vacuum. That's why I think, like, TikTok, things like that are not going to come naturally to me, because on my own I tend to overthink and make things awkward. I'm much better at bouncing off people. So anyway, yeah, backline support is essentially when someone on the backline, someone on your team who isn't involved in the scene you're doing, sees something you're trying to do or identifies an element of your game, and they do something to support it. Sorry. So essentially, I'm getting a lot of backline support right now from my neighborhood, because the thing I'm conveying is, wow, my sound environment is challenging, and I'm going to just forge ahead and let you hear more of it in its raw, unedited form. And all these sounds are coming forward to kind of prove my point, but maybe also prove your point that they're not that big a deal. So when I'm bothered by something, it's an OCD quality, but also maybe just part of my base personality that I ruminate. So rather, it's not that I'm not solution oriented, it's that I get this is common with lots of people with anxiety. I'm not saying it's specific to OCD, but with OCD it tends to be called rumination, and it actually comes down to some faulty, some neuroatypical wiring where you don't transition out of feelings as easily, not just emotional feelings, but specifically feelings of lacking or something not being resolved, or something needing to be fixed. I don't know. Those are the really sticky traps. Those are the things that are hard to shift out of. I once heard OCD described as a sticky gear shift because people with OCD don't get that feeling of the checked box, the thing being fixed, as readily. So I tend to ruminate, and that makes me pretty closed off to feedback sometimes. So I'm trying to be more the person who, to the extent that I'm able, who believes feedback, accepts it, believes it, especially if I've gotten it multiple times. So I think my audience on YouTube has been pretty clear that, like, they'd rather have the videos than have perfect audio. So I need to heed that, and I don't know, trust it, and forge ahead. Trust it and not use my sound environment as an excuse to give up. My hairstylist, I got my hair cut recently, and she gave me a middle part because my hair's gotten so long. Because I told her to put my part where she thought it looked best and I had the best balance of hair, and she put it dead in the center. And I refuse to take sides on that whole part conversation. I do not have any skin in that. I was about to say I don't have a dog in that fight, but I think that's an ugly expression. I don't have skin in that game. That's not right, but I don't know. I just don't care. I've always had my part like right here for the most part, and I've noticed that people with center parts always told me that I had a side part, and people with that really deep side part, people who would like flip their hair over in that kind of beachy way, would always be like, oh, you with your middle part. And so I guess I was like somewhere in the middle, which is where I like to be. My hair's gotten so long that the difference density-wise between the smaller side, the one with the part, the difference between those two sides had gotten pretty severe. Like, it was looking really stringy on one side and more full on the other. So I guess she decided that if I wanted to keep my hair longer, which I do at this point, she put me dead in the middle. I think it's not the most flattering on my face shape, but she kind of cut layers that way. So I'm, again, trying to be open to feedback, and seeing how I like it. I wish I could have that share hair. Like, if I ever thought that was a possibility for me, I would have been rocking a middle part a long time ago, but I just think I don't have as thick hair, and I don't have the face shape for it. I do really like that 70s look that I feel has come back into style of the Morticia Adams kind of. I guess a lot of people who think of 70s aren't associating it with Morticia Adams, but you know what I mean. Super long, very severe middle part, and it's funny because it can look super austere, I guess the word is severe, but it can also look very like carefree, whimsical. Like, there's a picture that's been going around online a lot of a woman with super long blonde hair roller skating, and I think it's from the 70s. So made up for lost time these last few months. And buying things I didn't need for my apartment. Yeah, things I didn't need for my apartment. I feel like we all went into a kind of nesting mindset during this quarantine, those of us who were taking the stay-at-home orders seriously. Yeah. So, I could definitely do a big ramble about movies. I could do 10 rambles about movies. I wanted to chat with you about what I want to do when I'm comfortable going out again, when things open up again, and I've gotten both my doses, and I've waited the necessary amount of time, and I've also seen if a booster shot would be necessary for the new strains. And, I would continue to follow guidelines in terms of distancing and masks and things, but the things that I'm super excited to do when things go back to relative normal, my financial goals for the coming years. I want to talk to you about my celebrity experiences, is Delia Owen.